Good evening. Welcome everybody, and thank you very much, Amalia, and all the organizers and promoters of this great PRIN project. I'm already excited, actually, and really willing to listen and to be part of a discussion that, from the words we have already heard, I think it will be a great opportunity to move forward with our research. So I am supposed to chair this session, so we are a little bit late. So I would ask everybody to keep the time, and maybe we can use 18 minutes for the first two presentations, and maybe 13 minutes for the other. But we can just to leave some time for discussion afterwards. Okay, so do you mind to keep my time? Because I want also to. That would be great. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, this helps. Okay. Anxiety, yeah, I don't mind, sure. Okay, so here we are. I have been told that there is no need to introduce, right, the speakers, because biographies and so are already available. So let's move straight forward to our topics. So I'm a scientist by training and also philosopher by training. So I'm a hybrid in our society, and I'm focusing in the first session on some philosophical issues that hopefully will help in the discussion. The presentation is prepared actually with also my colleague, Alfredo Marcos, co-author in this book, but there are other books we have been working on during the last years, so it is part of an international discussion on our topics. I don't want to go back to evolution, but this slide is just supposed to say that human beings are naturally technical beings. Okay, so technology is part, techne, and technology now is part of our daily life, normal life, and that's not a problem, but it has an implication, which is that as a human action, as a human behavior, as a part of the human way of dwelling in the real world, has philosophical and ethical implications, always. So it won't surprise if we say that, hi, welcome. It won't be a surprise if we say that human beings have been evolving to some extent with technology, but also they have been perceiving risks, problems, anxiety, precisely within this process. This is an iconic image to say that with the other three A, I usually use to describe the digital transition, so automation, the pointer is automation, accessibility. The automation of the pointer is, yeah. Acceleration is another, let's see if this works instead. Acceleration, accessibility, okay. This does not work as it probably is supposed to do. Can you move the slides for me? Yeah, maybe it's easier. Okay, next one. And on this one, this is the fourth A, right, autonomy, with which actually we do have a problem now, because we have been working, going back to what Professor Diunni was saying about the relational beings we are, right? Because technology in the last century at least, but it dates back to at least the last 3 centuries, I would say, we have been moving within and growing up within a cultural environment in which this autonomy, also mediated by technology, is pretty much individualistic, right? So usually in the market, in the expectation of the economy, generally speaking, people think that technology is supposed to make them autonomous in the sense of independent from others. And this is not the case, as we know, but it requires, within the scenarios we are looking at, a different philosophical, anthropological, ethical, scientific, philosophical reflection. So this is the point I wanted to go towards and to deepen now. So next slide, please. Okay, so what does it mean to be human in the digital age? Next slide. First ontology, then ethics. So here in this slide, you already say my thesis, which is precisely because the tensions we have already considered in the previous introduction are very important and are asking for new answers, but even more for new relevant questions in order to converge on guidelines, on documents, on norms, on a way of reasoning, on narratives that can really help us creating or strengthening, for example, social bonding, which is clearly a problem now in many cases, precisely because of the digital instruments we have. Just think of the social media, right? Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so here we have a provocation, right? We can say, and we can start discussing if, whether, or to what extent artificial intelligence is a problem just because of the name we are using when talking about digital technologies, okay? And here we have somebody who said that we aren't really on the path to developing intelligent machines. In fact, we don't even know where, let's see if I can find the, AI will continue to improve at a narrow task, but if we want to make real progress, we will need to start by more fully appreciating the only true intelligence we know, our own, okay? So we have different words that have been using to talk about artificial intelligence, but we can already say or discuss that maybe we are using some misleading names. People in the scientific field already said that from the very beginning that most computer scientists find it inappropriate, right? So usually scientists do know what they are talking about, what we are talking about, what kind of function a machine, a digital machine, an artificial intelligence machine can perform. Still, we use language like machine learning, deep learning, that can be also slightly misleading if we are not really aware of what kind of functions this kind of machines can do and what kind of support, therefore, they can offer to humans, personally, individually, or collectively. So that's why already in literature and also in policy, we have been listening to other terms like assisted intelligence, expanded intelligence, human-centered artificial intelligence, and so on. There is a reason why. Maybe at the moment it is still a concern, more than a thesis, more than an argument, more than a cultural trend, okay? But there is something here. Language is never by chance, but it shapes. Right? It shapes our way of understanding things and even our values. And that's the point I wanted to stress in this first presentation. So the proposal here in my presentation and in the books you saw at the very beginning is to use, at least for a scientific debate, this concept of delegated control systems. This shift, a change of name, a change of perspective, right, from a philosophical point of view, from a social point of view, from a semantic point of view, and so on, is important because in this way, reasoning in deco systems, so in delegated systems, we move from seeing AI systems as technical systems with the social consequences. So the question in this case would be what kind of social consequence we have or what kind of social consequence we are willing to manage or not, to avoid or not. Towards another perspective, to seeing the ecosystem, delegated control systems, as technically implemented social system. Again, you see that I have a strong thesis on the overall issue, right? The idea is that machines are clearly part of our social interactions as relational beings. They are changing our way of interacting, but it is a social systems. So humans plus machines, where the intelligent part is not artificial, and what is artificial is not intelligent at all. Just to disentangle the question at this point becomes what do, oops, I'm struggling with the slides, okay. Okay, so the question becomes what is intelligence, therefore? If you say, Marta is saying that the term of artificial intelligence is misleading as such, how can we explain what intelligence is? I won't give more definition than this, but what is important in this scenario is that we quite often use language like understanding, decision-making, and so on, right? But the intelligence behavior, capabilities beyond this kind of actions is typically human for technological and anthropological reasons. The point I want to make, and I see that the time flies as always, but let's put it this way. We can use machines, for example, to check my blood pressure. And I have a machine with a sign, right? I have my blood pressure, which is a fact, which is an object. But what is in between these two objects is the interpretation, which is human, of the relation among these two independent objects in the real world. So this is an example, but the other example could be regarding the concept, the topic of the problem. Having a problem, a digital machine can help me in solving a problem. And we do develop them in order to fill that goal, to be more effective, efficient, and so on, in reaching that specific goal. But that goal, that problem, is a human problem. For the machine, is just a correlation of data without any possibility of creating any highlights about possible different, even less if values are involved. And if we have a machine able to do something, the machine is a tool interacting with us, so shaping in this sense also our perception of the problem. For example, think of the wars, right? Should we go just with machines to fight against somebody else, a country or so on, or should we even more, precisely because of this possibility, of this technological possibility, sitting down, stopping and thinking and considering if the war is really necessary at all, right? So this is the kind of reflection I wanted to bring into the discussion. Intelligence as understanding, but we understand, not the machines. Intelligence as problem solving, we have problems. Simulating intelligence, simulating is different from being. So when we are confronting this kind of scenario, so we have to consider that if we do not clarify what we are actually talking about, we will have problems by definition in this case, right? But it is not so simple, because if that would be the case, we won't be here, right? Because it's true that in the scenario of social system technologically mediated, this technological mediation have a new impact, something we have to study, something we have to deepen, something we have to talk about. Because the different levels and kinds of vulnerabilities human beings are exposed to are changing in kind, not because human beings are changing, not because the technology is something so different from what there was in other technical social contexts, but because of the interaction of the machines with our interactions. So it's a sociological problem. It's a social problem. It's not a technical one. And that's, to me, one of the most important points to make in this context. Right? So all dynamics or action of brute force take place between two subjects. But by semiosis, I mean, on the contrary, an action or influence which is or involved a cooperation of three subjects, such as a sign, object, interpretant. The point of the pressure, right? In any time we use a machine, digital machine, chatbot, GPT. Sorry, thank you. Sorry. This is a human problem, you see? Yeah, this is human factor in. This is me, it's not my avatar, clearly. Without an interpretant, the machine just changing from one physical state to another. It is no longer part of an AI system. It is just a piece of matter like a washing machine on Neptune, okay? And this is also important because machines require maintenance, right? And a lot of work. And the more sophisticated they are, more work is needed in order to help them to perform properly. And this is also, from an ecological point of view, from the point of view of sustainability of these processes, another important issue I want to develop more by now. Why is it so hard for us to accept it? Philosophically speaking, I think also sociologically speaking, there is this effect, which is very well known by all the mothers here in the room, or probably some fathers too, right? When we have a little piece of green plastic in our hands, and we sit closer to the children, and we start telling them the story of Drago Grisù in Italian, they start imagining things, and that Drago, that animal, is alive, does things, has an impact in the emotional environment, life of the kids, right? But when kids fall asleep, that piece of plastic, green plastic, does not exist as a live, living animal, right? So this is something that also happens in this scenario of artificial intelligence. Okay. I have so how should we deal with all this? I think that one of the most important changes in the scenario when thinking in terms of human vulnerability and artificial intelligence is that the level of uncertainty in the real world increases in different ways we have not seen up to now, and we have to consider. But we already have in science, in social sciences, in life sciences, an answer, an ethical answer, a philosophical answer. How can we manage these kind of uncertainties, which are real? Prudence, right? Or precautionary principles. We can, but this is changing also how we should understand the risk, for example. Amalia was mentioning at the beginning, but this is for discussion if of any interest. Okay, so this is another quote I want to read because my time is, but this idea, right, of also from a logical point of view, machines proceed in a very different way from human beings.